I spent a whole 8 months in this place and no one knew a thing about my hair system. When I look back to this, we're going to be taking a trip down memory lane, guys. We're going to be taking a trip back to when I first started wearing hair systems. So, I haven't mentioned this for a long time, but I have this condition. It's a chronic condition called fibromyalgia. It's a widespread chronic pain condition. It's very, very unpleasant. It affects every part of your body. It affects your mobility as well. It's pretty debilitating. If you want to learn more about it, though, you can check out fmauk.org and it will give you all the information you need to know about fibromyalgia if you're interested. If you're not, totally understandable. It is a hair system channel, but I just thought I'd drop that in there and give you a little insight into my life. So I've been through various sort of medical interventions along the way, and one of them was going to an oxygen chamber, whereby they sit you in this chamber, they put an oxygen mask on you, and they compress that particular chamber. And according to the science, it has these sort of anti-inflammatory impact upon your body. It reduces the inflammation, and as a result, hypothetically, your pain should improve. Now, I started doing this when I first started wearing a hair system, and I was going for like 8 months, right? So I was there for a good amount of time, and I was going like every single week, and I got to know a lot of people there pretty well. And if anyone has been following my channel since the early days, so like 2019, 2020, I think it was 2019 I started this channel, you will remember that in the early days, I was not great at putting on hair systems, and I did not have the best hair systems because I was new to it and I was learning on the job. This is perfectly normal, okay? Not once did anyone ever say to me, is there something going on with your hair? Or, your hair looks a little bit different. Bearing in mind that when I actually started going to this oxygen chamber, I didn't have a hair system. And then I remember about 3 weeks in, I had my hair system for the first time. And objectively, my hair was thicker, it was fuller, I had a flatter hairline basically than I'd had before, but no one said anything. And I do wonder, I'm like, did they must have thought something, obviously not necessarily hair system or toupee. Could they have thought hair transplant? Could they have thought that somehow my hair had started growing thicker? Could they have thought I was on minoxidil? I think within this world of hair systems, we seem to think that everyone knows about the same amount of information as we do about these particular interventions, but they really don't. I think when people see stuff like that, they're kind of like, well, that looks a bit different, but, maybe he's letting his hair grow out or something like that. And I gotta say, like, back then, I didn't have systems like I've got now. Like, this system is fantastic for me and it looks natural. I've got my hair up a little bit. I got it spiky in the middle. Back then I think it was like a poly perimeter with a French lace frontal, and it also didn't have bleach knots. Scrutinizing it as heavily as I did back then, I was like, yeah, this is definitely pretty obviously fake. But obviously, people who don't wear hair systems don't scrutinize them as closely as we do. We are the ultimate over-scrutinizers. We are the ultimate perfectionists. And I think that's probably patterns that we could work on as people, because people do not look at our hairline as closely as we do unless they wear a hair system, or unless they've had a hair transplant, or unless they're super insecure about their own hair and they're checking out everyone else's hairline to compare and contrast to theirs. What was interesting during that period was I'd actually had a couple of lifts, and back then I didn't really have the time or the inclination to just glue it down every single time I noticed a lift. I'd just sort of push it down. But what I noticed was when I was in the chamber, because they put this mask on you, and the mask has like straps that go behind your head, and it can mess with your hair system a little bit. And I noticed that sometimes I'd be sort of like looking at my phone, and obviously you can see like a reflection in your phone when the screen is black, and I could actually see lifts in my hairline. But no one said anything to me, and maybe they didn't notice anything, maybe they did, but a couple of the connections that I made there, I was having very honest conversations with, around other stuff, not hair related, but very honest conversations. You'd think they'd actually bring it up if they would have spotted it. They'd have been like, oh, your hairpiece is lifted, or, there didn't look something didn't look quite right with your hair and stuff like that. But, you know, none of that happened. If anything, I actually got quite a few compliments. And I suppose the lesson and the moral of this story is people don't scrutinize as heavily as we do. And even if they do, it's unlikely that they're going to make a comment or laugh at you behind your back. Just before I crack on, please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't yet. Hit that subscription bell so you can get notified as to when I make new content. It's about twice a week at the moment. You can get notified straight away if you hit that bell. And please do like this video if you found it useful. But yeah, at the top of this video, I'd basically, you know, back then, also, I ran my systems into the ground. They looked like sandpaper by the end because I tried to get as long out of them as possible, and the hair was just so dry and brittle. So, you know, my hair systems back then were not of the same quality of the hair systems that I get now from Vivid. Back then, I would just run them into the ground, and yeah, it was pretty obvious because at least my first 3 systems weren't bleach knots. And now looking back at it, I'm kind of like, yeah, that was pretty obvious. But as I said, nothing was said. I don't think people scrutinize as closely as we do. Probably because they're thinking about other things. Probably their priority isn't looking at how realistic our hairline looks or about our hair in general. They're probably thinking about other stuff relating to them. So that's the lesson here, guys. Don't worry so much about what you think other people might be making of what your hair's looking like, because the chances are they're probably not even paying attention. And if you have a lift, don't sweat. Just put your hair down. If it's up, put it down and leave it down until you've sorted the lift. I had it up when I had a lift. Still, no one made a comment about it. But in hindsight, and hindsight is a wonderful thing, experience with wearing these things comes experience. And, you know, if I have a lift now, I just put the hair down for the rest of the day. I get home, I put a bit of glue on, boom, Bob's your uncle. Now, I'm going to end this video here because the perching stool that I'm on is feeling a little bit wobbly for some reason. I might have to look into possibly getting that fixed. But let me know, guys, what was your experience when you first started wearing systems? Were you super worried about what people might think? Did anyone say anything to you about your system? Or has it been pretty plain sailing for you? Let me know in the comments box below. Don't forget to subscribe. If you want my hair system, you know where to go, levividhair.com, 15% off, Adam15 in the coupon code box. It's in my description below as well, so don't forget to avail of that discount. You can use it as many times as you like. It works on the accessories they sell too. Till next time, guys, take care. Bye for now.